2012 was probably one of the best year for me. I did submitted Mount KK right before my 20 years old birthday, and decided to give up my actuarial science course. Went for these 6 months working just to save money for my backpacking trip. So I did a lot of job during these 6 months of time. I was a waiter, I was a cashier, I was a promoter in the mall, and also I did some installation of bunting in the middle of highway. All these kind of sales things, like there's promotion for this brand and this kind of stuff. And then after I save up enough amount of money, I went for 7 months trip to 8 countries. I went to Thailand, I went to Cambodia, India, Nepal, Afghanistan, Iran, Turkey, and Egypt. A lot of people ask me what makes me decided to go to Afghanistan. There's a book inspired me to travel there. It's called The Kite Runner. So when I first read the book, I felt it's so different from the kind of the Afghanistan that I heard from the mainstream media. The things that I know about Afghanistan from mainstream media is all about war, bombing, a lot of kidnapping and beheading of foreign people. So, but the story tell me a more human side about this country. So I decided to put this place as one of the destination I want to go, and I went there. I didn't inform my parents before I go to Afghanistan. Until a week after I arrived there, I I called my mom and say, "Yeah, mom, I'm in Afghanistan." She went mad. She was so crazy. Sorry. She was so angry. She wasn't crazy. She was so angry. Yeah. So she wanted me to leave the country immediately. She said you can go travel to any other country, but not these kind of places. But I say to her that I'll be safe. I try to convince her I will try to take care of myself well, and I promised her to stay for just 1 month in the country. But later I stayed for 2 months. I extended my visa. During my first 2 weeks in Afghanistan, I was so scared of walking on the street because what I knew is that as long as there's more people, there's more crowd, it will become the target of terrorists. They might bomb the place where there's more people. So whenever I want to explore the place, I try to avoid market and or any place where you will see more people. Until 2 weeks later, I started to meet more local people and talk to them, and 70 to 80% of my time there, I was staying with the local. A lot of them I just met on the street. Um, they see this foreigner phrase, they feel like it's so excited, so they invited me for tea. After that, we have a little talk with some English and some body language. And after the tea, they invited me for dinner in their place with the family. So I went there because I was so poor back then. I want to travel with a little bit amount of money, but I want to travel a lot. So I accepted their invitation. After the dinner, they asked me to stay in their place. They want to host me, and I said, "Yeah, why not? Free accommodation for that period of time when you are young and poor." And I stayed for one day. They asked me if I want to extend for more. Then I stayed for 1 week to 10 days in some of the places. The stay or the experience in Afghanistan actually changed my perspectives about this country. There are there are of course some really bad people who are very extreme in the place, but I met more good people who hosted me, who feed me, who give me everything, even if they are poor. They are for poor family. Like they will serve me mm, chicken, like roasted chicken. They will serve me in the guest room. and prepare a lot of Coke, um, you know, soft drinks. So they will see me eating right in front of them. So I asked them, why don't you guys just eat with me? They say, we'll eat later in the kitchen. So after I finished my dinner, I went to the kitchen. I saw them. What they eat is just some bread and little bit amount of yogurt. They're poor, but they give me everything they have. So it actually touched my heart. There's one time I went to central province of Afghanistan, which is called Bamiyan. Um, there's a group of elders gathered there. They are having some meeting. So I follow our Afghan friends there. Um, so he introduced me as a journalist. But back then I wasn't a journalist. I was just a hippie backpacker. But it's quite hard, quite difficult for the local people, for the Afghan villagers to understand this term backpacker. So if the friend introduced me as a journalist, that would be easy. So I say like, yeah, why not? So this one of the elder, he came to me and he said, he looked at me very seriously and he said, Chris, so when you go back to your country, can you please tell your government about our situation here, our village here? We are neglected by the Afghan government. We don't have proper education system, medical system, everything. We don't have clean water. We don't have electricity. So I nodded my head. I said, okay. But inside, I felt very guilty and helpless because I wasn't a journalist that time. I stopped my school. I didn't work. I would just want to be a hippie, travel around the world. So after the meetup, I still traveled to Iran, Turkey, and Egypt. But throughout the journey, I kept thinking, am I right to be a hippie? Like, there are a lot of people who are suffering, but I'm just doing what I enjoy. And I try to get out from the system. In 2013, when I get back to Malaysia, I decided to study mass communication in journalism. And during that time, I started as a freelance journalist because I think like I can write in the same time I can travel. It's like I can do both things in the same time. That time I started to travel to Syria. Um, yeah, I traveled to Syria in 2014. So a lot of people ask me when I was a student, how did I travel? It's something quite interesting for me because I tried to take every semester break I have to travel to overseas, to travel to Middle East. I was in Lebanon, I was in Syria, I was in Iran, a few times in Turkey as well. So like this is how I travel. So every semester break in my university, we had 2 to 3 weeks semester break. If there's 2 weeks of semester break, I will take 4 weeks for my own trip. People, when my friends started their class already, I will skip the first 2 weeks of the semester, and I was in the Middle East. That's how I traveled. And in Syria, what I saw is all about bombing, the mortar bombs, um, the snipers and airstrike flying over you every single day. They target, market civilian places, mosque. As long as there's huge group of people, they will target there. Even hospital, school, these kind of places. Because for the enemy in the war, if you kill a doctor, it's equal to you are killing thousands of civilians because doctor can help to save the life of the army, the soldiers, the civilians. So there's war tactic. There's no mercy in war. And I met these young Syrian friends inside Syria. Right, he was 24. He had to stop his school, university, just because of the war, and came back to Syria, to his hometown, and fight for Free Syrian Army. He was with the humanitarian group. Um, he wanted to study, to continue his study in Turkey to the neighbor country, but because he was too poor, he can't go there. He's stuck in Syria. So I asked him, why don't you just being a refugee in Europe, in some other places. You are young, you will have a brighter future. If you're stuck here in Syria, you're going to either die or you'll just end up with no future. And he explained to me, even to be a refugee, you need to have some amount of money, because when you smuggle to the other country, you need to pay money to the smugglers, can be tens of thousands USD, and you have to have some saving to pay for the first few months of rental and the utilities. That's why he didn't go. He was too poor. And I met this father who lost his wife and five of his children. Another two kids was alive due to some tanker attack. He was still continue working in the factory to feed the other two kids. And the legs was facing amputation or infections because they couldn't have a proper medication help. I met a doctor who separated from his family and two kids, because he and his wife, they were holding very different political view. The doctor himself is Sunni, the wife is Alawite, um, so they couldn't agree with each other. So the wife and the kids stuck in regime area, and this doctor was in Free Syrian Army area to help in the field hospital. They are separated, divided. They might never united. They might never see each other again, because as we know, Syrian war is not going to end anytime soon. Of course, we spend good time in Syria as well. I teach my Syrian friends to use chopstick. So it's quite interesting for them, because most of them, there are some people a few who are from well-off family who still stay inside Syria, but most of them who stay are very poor. So even before the war, they never visit foreigners restaurant. They never go to Chinese restaurant or Western restaurant. So when they see this Chinese face, Malaysian Chinese, the first thing they ask me is, can you help teach us to use chopsticks? I know it's war. How can we have this time to do all this kind of fun stuff? But during nighttime, the fight is a bit lower, so we have some fun time anyways. So I I found uh, Indomie in Syria. So we bought some, we cook. It tastes quite similar to the Indomie here, and we get some stick and we learn how to use chopsticks. Most of them, they are around my age, in 20s, and around your age as well. And for me, when I get out of Syria, I have good future ahead of me, a lot of possibilities. I can be anyone I want to be, but for them, they are going to stuck there until the war is going to end. And we understand that it's not going to end until future 10 years or more. People ask me, what can a journalist do to change these things? I always believe that a person, you can never change the world, or you can never stop a war. But I always believe it is important to convey a message on the ground, especially when you are in the conflict zones. It's like there's a lot of chemical gas attack going on in Syria since 2011. If there's no journalists who try to report about these things going on, there will be more massacre going on. So I believe journalists is a role as a watchdog to lessen the casualties, and we might never ever to stop the war, or we as a individual person, we can't really make a huge impact about this situation in the country. But if we gather all the power together, I believe we can make a change to all these conflict zones, the situation there and the people there. Thank you.